The Young and the Restless spoilers next week, October 6 to October 10, 2025. Reveal that Genoa City never runs short of heartbreak, betrayal, and uneasy alliances, and this week's developments prove just how quickly relationships can shatter while unexpected bonds take form. At the center of the storm are Audra Charles and Nate Hastings, a pairing that once thrived on wit, chemistry, and the thrill of ambition but now lies in ruins under the weight of broken trust. Audra, stripped of her usual confidence, finds herself standing before Nate not as the calculating woman who has always known how to manipulate a situation, but as someone truly vulnerable, someone desperate to hold on to the man who once made her believe she could be more than her past. She opens up in ways she never has before, confessing not just her regrets but the deep-rooted insecurities that drove her to make the choices that destroyed them. She admits her lies, acknowledges the pain she caused, and begs Nate to consider the possibility that she has changed, that the woman who once betrayed him no longer exists. For Nate, however, the words are hollow echoes of promises he has heard too many times. He listens, but his expression remains guarded, his heart encased in the armor built from betrayal. He tells her he cannot accept her apology, not because he feels nothing but because he feels too much. Every time he looks at her, he sees not just the woman he loved but the lies she told, the deceit she spun, the trust she shattered. He cannot unsee the betrayal, cannot separate the passion they once shared from the dishonesty that poisoned it. He tells her he will always expect her to return to her worst self, to resort to manipulation when cornered, to reach for ambition before love. And for a man like Nate, who has sacrificed too much of himself already, that is a risk he cannot take again. Audra's tears fall freely as she begs him to reconsider, reminding him of the laughter they shared, the way they challenged each other, the way they made one another grow. She insists she can do better, that she has learned, that she wants nothing more than to build a future with him. But Nate shakes his head, his voice filled with sorrow rather than anger. He tells her he cannot risk being betrayed again, that trust is the one thing that cannot be rebuilt once it has been shattered so completely. For Audra, the rejection is devastating. She has faced loss before, but this one cuts differently, because for once she truly allowed herself to care. She collapses into tears, left with the bitter lesson that sometimes love is not enough when trust has been broken beyond repair. While Audra drowns in heartbreak, another storm brews across Genoa City, this one centered on the Abbotts and their complicated ties to the Newmans. Billy Abbott, never far from turmoil, finds himself once again face-to-face with his mother Jill. Their relationship, always strained, becomes combustible as Billy unloads years of resentment in a family therapy session that feels more like a battlefield than a healing space. Billy accuses Jill of betrayal, recounting every slight, every wound, every time she seemed to favor Kane Ashby over him. He tells her that her decisions, selling Chancellor, aligning with Victor, prove she has always valued power and pragmatism over her own son's loyalty and pain. He brings up Kane's alleged schemes, including his supposed AI project, and insists Jill is blind to the dangers he poses. Jill, wounded by his words yet unwilling to back down, argues that Billy is overreacting, that her choices are about survival and strategy, not betrayal. But Billy cannot hear her. His anger drowns out her explanations, his years of feeling like the overlooked child boiling over in accusations that cut both ways. The confrontation ends not in reconciliation but in rupture, as Billy storms out, leaving Jill in tears, her health fragile and her heart broken not just by business but by the son she cannot seem to reach. Billy's rage carries him back to the Abbott mansion, where he stumbles upon a scene that shocks him even more than his argument with Jill. Victor Newman and Jack Abbott, longtime rivals and sworn enemies, sitting together in deep discussion. The sight stops him cold. For decades, Victor and Jack have defined themselves by their hatred for one another, their feud a cornerstone of Genoa City's very identity. And yet here they are, plotting side by side. Billy listens, piecing together their plan to strike against Kane Ashby, to neutralize the threat that has grown too large to ignore. At first, he is stunned, but then something shifts in him. For all his anger, for all his bitterness, he realizes he too wants to see Kane exposed, Kane brought down. Slowly, tentatively, Billy steps forward, surprising both Victor and Jack as he asks to join them. The alliance is unprecedented. Victor, the ruthless patriarch, Jack, the protective abbot, and Billy, the wounded son, all united by a common enemy. Their motives differ. Victor seeks dominance, Jack seeks to protect his legacy, and Billy seeks vindication, but together they form a trio that could reshape Genoa City's balance of power. Yet alliances built on necessity are fragile, and Nikki Newman's warning lingers in the air. She fears that Victor will not stop with Kane, that this truce is only temporary, that Jack may one day regret inviting his rival into the heart of his home. For now, however, the focus remains on Kane, whose next move could determine whether this uneasy coalition holds or shatters. As the week closes, Genoa City finds itself in a state of uneasy suspense. Audra, devastated by Nate's rejection, must decide whether she will crumble under the weight of her mistakes or rise once more, perhaps darker and more determined than before. Nate, walking away from the woman who once lit a fire in him, must live with the hollow ache of love denied. Billy, estranged from his mother, throws himself into a new alliance that may offer him purpose but could also drag him deeper into danger. Jill, heartbroken and vulnerable, is left to question whether she has lost her son forever. And looming over it all is the shadow of Kane Ashby, the man whose schemes have united enemies, divided families, and set the stage for battles that will leave no one untouched. In Genoa City, trust is fragile, love is fleeting, and alliances are temporary. Audra learns that opening her heart means nothing if lies have poisoned it. Nate learns that walking away from love can hurt just as much as staying. Billy learns that anger can sever bonds even as it forges new ones. Jill learns that being right is not the same as being loved. And Victor and Jack learn that sometimes even enemies must stand together when a greater threat looms. But as history has always proven, peace in this town never lasts, and every truce plants the seeds of the next war. The Young and the Restless spoilers tease that some relationships in Genoa City are so fractured that reconciliation feels impossible, and the rift between Billy Abbott and his mother Jill is one of them. For all their shared love, for all the history that binds them together, Billy cannot forgive her latest betrayal. Jill continues to refuse to admit that she has done wrong by him, even as she wrestles with the weight of her decisions in private. She cannot say the words Billy needs to hear, at least not yet, but when it comes to Kane Ashby she is far less guarded. She confesses, if only to herself, that much of Billy's recklessness is her fault, because he is so much like her, always all in or all out, willing to gamble everything on a single move, whether it leads to triumph or disaster. In some twisted way, this is her apology, her acknowledgement that Billy's flaws are reflections of her own. But she cannot bring herself to say it directly to him, and so the cycle of pain between mother and son continues, unresolved, raw, and corrosive. Billy, meanwhile, storms out of his confrontation with Jill and Kane, consumed by anger and frustration. He feels abandoned, betrayed, and dismissed, the same feelings that have haunted him for years. He leaves them behind, vowing not to look back, but fate has other plans. When he returns to the Abbott estate, he stumbles into a scene that stops him cold, Jack Abbott, his brother, and Victor Newman, his nemesis, sitting together as allies. To Billy, this is the cruelest twist of all. His mother has chosen Kane over him, and now his brother has chosen Victor over him. It feels like the entire world is conspiring to push him to the margins, to remind him that he will never be the favored son, the trusted heir, or the reliable partner. At first, Billy cannot process what he is seeing. Jack and Victor have been enemies for decades, their feud one of the most defining aspects of life in Genoa City. To see them side by side, united, is almost incomprehensible. He listens, piecing together enough to realize the truth: they are planning to take Kane down, to strike before his AI schemes spiral further out of control. For Billy, it is both vindication and insult. Vindication, because he has been saying all along that Kane is dangerous. Insult, because Jack and Victor have moved forward without him, as though his warnings and his instincts do not matter. In a moment of determination, Billy steps forward and announces that he wants in. He wants to be part of the plan to stop Kane, not just because he despises him but because he needs to prove, to Jack, to Jill, to himself, that he still matters, that he still has a place in the fight for their family's legacy. His voice carries desperation beneath the bravado, the plea of a man who is tired of being overlooked and dismissed. Victor's reaction is predictable. He smirks, his voice dripping with sarcasm, mocking Billy as reckless, unstable, and unreliable. He dismisses Billy's offer with a laugh, suggesting that the last thing they need in a delicate operation is another liability. Victor relishes the opportunity to cut him down, to remind him that he has never been and will never be on Victor Newman's level. Jack, however, is less certain. He sees the pain in his brother's eyes, the genuine desire to be useful, the raw vulnerability that lies beneath the anger. Jack knows Billy better than anyone, knows that while he is impulsive and volatile, he also has a fire that can be an asset if properly channeled. The dilemma weighs heavily on him. Should he give Billy one more chance, risking that his brother's recklessness could sabotage everything, or should he keep him at arm's length, protecting the alliance but breaking Billy's spirit even further? This is the decision that could define not only their family but also the fragile truce between Jack and Victor. If Jack lets Billy in, Victor may walk, unwilling to risk his plans on someone he deems a liability. If Jack shuts Billy out, he may destroy what little trust remains between them as brothers. The stakes are higher than business or legacy. They are about identity, about belonging, about whether Billy can ever escape the shadow of being the Abbott family's perpetual disappointment. Meanwhile, Kane looms over all of this as the silent antagonist, his schemes growing bolder by the day. He may not know yet that such a powerful alliance has formed against him, but when he does, he will not go down quietly. For all his flaws, Kane is cunning, resourceful, and unafraid of taking risks that others would shy away from. The battle ahead promises not just corporate warfare but personal vendettas, emotional scars, and betrayals that will echo for years. Back at Chancellor Winter's, Jill feels the weight of everything pressing down on her. She knows she has hurt Billy, knows she has lost something precious in her relationship with him, but she cannot see a way forward. She tells herself that time will heal it, that eventually he will understand why she made the choices she did. But deep down, she fears she may have pushed him too far this time, that the fracture between them is no longer a crack but a chasm. As she clutches at her chest, feeling the strain of both her heart and her conscience, she wonders if she will live to see the day her son forgives her. In Genoa City, alliances form and shatter in the blink of an eye, but family wounds linger forever. Billy's choice to step toward Jack and Victor is more than strategy, it is a cry for recognition. Victor's mockery is more than disdain, it is a reminder of the power imbalance that defines the town. Jack's hesitation is more than caution, it is the eternal struggle between protecting his brother and protecting the family legacy. And Jill's silence is more than avoidance, it is the sound of a mother who cannot find the words her son needs to hear. As the dust settles, the question remains, will Jack let Billy into the alliance against Kane, or will he shut him out once again? The answer will shape not only the fate of Chancellor and Jabot but also the fate of the Abbott family itself.